Welcome back to Love Where You Live, a show that's all about amazing people, places, and adventures. This week we're in Idaho City hanging out with Rhonda, who along with her two dogs does walking tours with the Idaho City Historical Society. Tell us what we're in front of right now. What is this?
It used to be the post office. It was actually built by James Penny, was the architect. Now it's the Boise Basin Museum. And I really like people to start out here because sometimes people will come here time and time again, and they'll just come and get ice cream, and they won't even and then drive off and won't even realize that this is probably the most historic town and historic street in Idaho City, in the state of Idaho, because really, I mean, the history of Idaho City is the history of Idaho because everyone came here first for the gold rush. Gold was discovered in 1862, so we're talking 150 years ago. And if you come here to the museum first, you really get a feeling for the impact of what happened here. There were 25,000 miners that lived here. This was the biggest city in the Pacific Northwest.
In this little town now.
Yeah, so 500 now and probably 25,000 in the mid-1860s. And this, as I said, this was the post office. Now it's the museum, and it's a great museum. There's 4 rooms and a really neat film to see. So if you come here first, you can really get a feeling for Idaho City and the history. But you can see that it is built of brick, and they have these iron doors.
I was going to ask, what's the deal with those iron doors? Because those aren't playing around. Like those are cute. Why were those installed?
Yeah, so they were actually carted here from San Francisco. They weigh about a ton each.
Wow.
And it's to fireproof the building. So in 1865, the whole town burned to the ground. And 2 years and 1 day later, guess what? Another fire started and the whole town burned to the ground.
I remember hearing
Again,
that. So they finally decided enough was enough.
Yeah, they figured it out, and they put the iron doors and the iron shutters on the buildings, and they put 2 feet of dirt in the ceiling to keep the fire from coming down into the buildings. And just all over town, you can really take yourself back and to the 1860s, and you just have to squint a little bit, take out the cars and the power lines, and you can really take yourself back. And that's what Idaho City is all about, is being able to go back to a gold camp. Because Idaho City was the queen of the gold camps, and rightly so. It was more bustling, with all those. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, these dogs actually play a purpose in what Rhonda does, which is really, really cool. This is Mojo.
This is Mojo.
And this is Mariah?
And Mariah.
What do Mojo and Mariah do on the tour?
So Mariah is a veteran. She has been doing school tours and walking tours for 12 years since she was a little puppy. And she has trained Mojo well. He just had his first school tour about a week ago. He's just almost a year old. And so he's taken over. He's learning the ropes from Mariah.
Just past you down here, there are some really fascinating looking buildings. We've been driving around, and I am dying to know about, there's like a what is that place called down there?
House.
I couldn't remember, like the Pest House. And another one. So let's go take a look. Let's have Mojo and Mariah walk us down there. We'll see what we see.
So the first house is the Holly House. And Judge Holly lived in it. It's from 1867. And you can see that we have got it set up just as if it were being lived in now, with the icebox and the cook stove, etc. in there. And then farther down in the village, we've got the Galbraith House. And I like to tell kids that in this, what seems like a teeny tiny house to them, there were 7 kids. And, and this brings up the fact that, the kids weren't inside all the time like they are now. They were outside playing, so they really just came home to eat and sleep. Otherwise, they were outside winter and summer. So, it seems like we couldn't live, 1 or 2 people in here, but that's the way it was then. Yeah, farther down in the historic village, we've got the blacksmith shop. And, kids, they don't know where their nails come from. You
Right.
know?
Just come out of a box from Home
they
Depot,
come
right?
From Lowe's, right? But to show them that everything that was made out of metal, you know, had to be made by the blacksmith. And if you go down in the penitentiary, there's the square nails, and there's just 1,000 of them, and every single one of them had to be made individually. And it really, you know, it really shows them.
So each nail was made by hand.
Yep.
Man, the idea of having to make nails by hand, you know, you go to the store and you grab a box and you just make what you need to make. But this guy had to make them by hand, and it's not always cold in Idaho City, right? Like, how hot does it get here in the summer?
Oh, it can get over 100 even here.
And he's
you know.
working with piping hot molten metal, molten steel. He must have been a pretty popular guy in town.
Yeah,
Pretty high demand, right?
Yeah, the blacksmith was one of the most important people back then.
So there's
yeah.
one more
Yeah, this is it.
building down here that, this is the one that really has my interest, because I've always wondered, I drive by here and it says it's the pest house and county jail.
Right.
What in the world is
So
this?
it's not pest like insects, it's pest for pestilence. So this is,
Oh, good.
yeah. So they kept people with contagious diseases quarantined in the pest house. So
Wait a minute, at the same
yeah.
time that it was a county jail?
no,
Oh,
it
okay.
was later.
Okay. I'm like,
I know. I hear you.
well, you don't want to get jailed in this joint.
No.
So if you had been diagnosed with the pestilence, and was that actually a specific thing? Or was
It could have been anything. It could
spread
have.
of things?
Yeah. It could have been cholera. It could have been, you know, whatever was going around.
just if you weren't right, this is where you went.
Smallpox, anything that you had to be quarantined for. So as you can see, 1865, so all the buildings you're going to be seeing just about are 1865 and 1867, because the fires, the buildings either survived the fires or they didn't and were rebuilt in those years.